if I hit that corner a tenth of a second better, well, all right, cool. Then that means I'm a tenth of a second closer to being the best in Australia or the best in the state or the best in my town or the best in the world. Like, it's the idea of bettering yourself every single day that gets me out of bed. You know, I land on my backside on the heel of my boot, and it actually broke my L4 in my back. But the real concern was I'd like pretty much tore myself a new butthole.
Yeah.
Literally, like in every sense of the word. I think I had 40 stitches in my butt crack, which is gnarly to think about. Like, and I found out really quick why Vince Freezy's very good at Arenacross.
Yeah.
Damn, I got absolutely slammed in the second corner on the heat race of the first night. I'm looking at everything that I've watched for years and years and just dreamt about it. And I'm like, I'm about to drop a gate on my very first Supercross, AMA Supercross. Like, how unreal is this? This is awesome. If I pull a damn hole shot in the heat, I'm sending it. You know, I'm going to hold on to that damn top 9 for as long as I bloody can. Or if I hole shot the damn LCQ, I'm holding on to that transfer spot for as long as I can. I'm definitely not going to roll over. I don't care who it is.
There were times I was lost, dark had fear, couldn't see through the rain. In the end, it was clear. Hit the fan, I was more than one man who was there to lend a hand. Together we'd stand, always had my back, my guardian soldier. Team pulled together, united we conquer. Blessed is he who in the name of charity carry me when I'm weak straight to the valley of darkness. Pitch blackness, the heartless, regardless, fear couldn't part us. Thick and thin, there by my side. At times we collide, but in the end we ride. Thick and thin, there by my side. At times we collide, but in the end we ride. We ride, 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 ride. Holding strong, united we stand, divided we fall. Together we belong. I am my brother's keeper. Keep on holding strong, united we stand, divided we fall. Together we belong. I am my brother's keeper. I am my brother's keeper. I am my brother's keeper.
Welcome back, Moto fans. We've got a great show lined up for you today where we'll be going inside the helmet with another Aussie privateer. Today's show is brought to you by Iro, 5 Gloves, Bolt Everywhere Premium Racewear, Graphics by Aqua, Death Grip Products, Southeast Pools, Wolf Building Compliance, Seaview Carpentry and Maintenance, Kimber Constructions, and the February sponsor of our motocross wall calendars, Ultimate Toy Haulers. All right, it's time to introduce our guest for this episode, Dylan Wood. Dylan's an Australian racer from New South Wales who's currently chasing the dream, racing Arenacross and Supercross over in the USA. Welcome to the podcast, Dylan.
Thank you, mate. Thanks for having me.
No, awesome, mate. Thanks for taking the time to do a call with me. How have things been going for you over there?
It's a little chilly. But other than that, it's been an unreal experience, mate. I couldn't be more pumped with it for sure.
No, that's awesome. Well, we've got summer over here, but you've taken the plunge to go straight into a US winter. What's it like racing in the cold?
To be honest, racing in the stadiums is actually nice and warm.
Oh, cool.
I just got back from Detroit, and it was snowing outside, like it was -5 degrees Celsius out there. I think it was the warmest the day got. But when you got down that stadium floor, man, I was peeling my jacket off. It was warm, which is nice, you know. And Tampa, which is my first round that I attended this year, that was like 80 degrees Fahrenheit. So it was in your mid-20s to, I think it was like 28 degrees was the warmest it got. So we were in shorts and a T-shirt. It was beautiful.
What's it like?
Got a bit lucky with the weather there.
Yeah, what's it like going from the hot to the cold and then, you know, outside? I imagine, I think at some of the stadiums you've got to sort of, where the privateers are, you're outside. What's it like going from the cold into the heat and then from round to round going, you know, hot and cold? Does it mess with you a bit?
Yeah, it does, especially this weekend, AT&T Stadium in Arlington. It's an outdoor pit, but an enclosed stadium. It's going to be super cold this weekend. And a lot of the arena crosses that I've been racing in the lead up to AMA Supercross has been outdoor pits, but inside racing. It's been something I haven't really been used to, obviously, because Australia, we race in the summer, so cold to heat isn't really an issue.
Yeah.
It's taken a bit of getting used to, but I find once I'm warm, I'll warm up outside, and it'll make that transition easier when I walk into the stadium or whatever like that. So I try and limit my time in the cold as much as possible. The last thing I want to do is get sick while I'm over here or trying to compete.
For sure. So what do? You just sort of rug up and get on the bike and warm up that way?
Yeah. I like to do a bunch of stretching or go for a little jog around the car park or wherever we're at. I got a big snow jacket and things like that. They're pretty good at keeping you warm, but just try and keep moving. You definitely can't sit around per se. It's you walk outside, spend as least amount of time out there as possible, get what you need or figure it out and get back into the stadium type deal.
Oh, obviously very, very different to racing over here.
Yeah, it's super different.
Yeah, before we get too deep into the racing stuff, because we'll get back to that, tell us a little bit about yourself. How old are you and where'd you grow up?
20. I just turned 25 actually, only a couple of weeks ago, from a little town called Singleton in New South Wales in the Hunter Valley there. Grown up there all my life and been racing pro for, I turned senior in end of 2016, so almost 10 years now, which is crazy to think about.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's really gotten away from me, but done all the nationals and Supercross series since I turned senior, and raced a bunch when I was young. Done a couple junior Aussies and those sort of things. So yeah, it's just been a lifelong dream, keep racing all around the country, all around the world type deal.
Yep, I had a chance to chat with you quite a bit during the 23 Supercross season, and you had your parents with you then. Do they still help you with your racing, or are you doing it all alone nowadays?
Mum and Dad, they're always going to be there to support me. Both my mum and dad used to race, and Dad honestly loves that sport.
Yeah,
loves this sport more than, I think that he loves food. To be honest. Yeah, I don't think he'd be lost if this sport ever went anywhere, to be honest. But they definitely help. They come to the track with me. They'll help me with food and travel and things like that. But ever since I started my apprenticeship, I have taken the financial burden of racing away from them. It's all on my back.
Yep.
Once I got a big boy job and I pay the bills, and hey, They want to be there to support me, and I can't thank them enough for everything they do for me. They're always there for me on the weekends, whether it's blistering hot or freezing cold. They're always going to be there to support me, which is awesome.
That's impressive on both counts. So what do you actually do for a crust?
I'm a fourth-year high-voltage electrician in the Hunter Valley in one of the coal mines there.
Yep.
So, yeah, coming up on finishing my time. I sit my capstone in end of June. So I'm really looking forward to getting that done and getting signed off and being a tradie, as well as, still chasing the dream of racing full time. So hopefully once I get that out of the way, the last 2 years have definitely been stressful trying to balance your TAFE and trade school and a full-time job on top of trying to compete with the best in Australia,
Yeah, I was going to ask you, that was going to be my next question. How do you balance it all out? Obviously, working a full-time gig and then trade school and studying on top of that, what does your average week look like when you were racing back in Australia?
22 and 23 were pretty good because I worked Monday to Fridays, just 9 to 10 hour days. So I would do all my gym work before or after work, just depending on how big of a session I had or, what was planned in for me that day. And I'd only get to ride Saturday, Sundays, but that was just the deal. I couldn't get home any earlier or have days off during the week to ride. So it was just a 2-day ride program, and I'd race on the weekends that I had to race, but I never had to worry about getting time off work or anything like that. I'd fly to the races because I physically couldn't afford to have days off work if I didn't have to. And they were pretty cool with me leaving early on a Friday afternoon to catch a flight or something like that, which was really, really cool of them. And then last year was really tough. I moved over to what we call shift work. So doing like a 4-panel roster, you do 4 12-hour days, then you'd get 3 days off, and then you'd go in for 4 nights, 12.5-hour shifts, and then 4 days off, and it just rotates throughout the weeks. But that means I work every second weekend. So I got more days off to ride and train, which is great, but I'd miss out on, a couple weekends clash with races. So I'd have to take time off and move around that way. So that was a little difficult. But the hardest thing was last year, lots of exams. I pretty much had an exam every second week. To be an electrician, you have to, a lot of physics, a lot of maths is involved.
Yep.
So I was flying to the races. After an exam, I would take my books with me to study for the following one, or I was doing online quizzes just to try and keep up to date with everything. And then I broke my back, and I had 4 exams 3 weeks after I broke my back. I was laying in hospital, didn't get discharged till 3 days before one of my exams. I had to go and resit it because I'd missed it. Had to get doctor's certificates and all that to say, hey, don't fail me on this subject. Yeah. Because I was in hospital. I physically couldn't be there.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of stressful times, but we got it done. You just suck it up and deal with it, get it done.
Yeah. We'll talk a little bit about your injury a bit later, but you obviously must be pretty disciplined, because I at least personally, I find like when you've got a sort of irregular routine like that, it's like really hard to get everything done. So do you plan, or you just go with the flow, or is that just get after it each day?
A lot of it is planned. Sometimes you have things that pop up that ruin that plan sometimes, which makes it a pain in the ass. But man, I love what I do, and I would sacrifice everything, if I'm tired or, had a bad day or whatever, come home and get my gym work done, and I feel like I accomplished something, it's a little bit of a chip on the shoulder, like, oh, I want this, I want to get better, and well, this is what I got to do. So there's no excuses, otherwise I'm going to be paying for it on the weekends, and that's just how I look at it, So no one's going to come there and help you. You got to put the big boy boots on and get it done,
Well, with the amount that you've got on your plate, like you're obviously sacrificing stuff that other guys and girls in their early 20s sort of would be chasing in terms of partying and just chilling out a lot. So you obviously love what you do. What is it about motocross that you love and that keeps you going?
Oh man, I would say I'm going to compare it to work. You can go to work and you can do an absolute bang up job and put a lot of time and effort in and be the best tradie around, but still, you're only going to get paid a certain amount at the end of the day, whereas I can get on my dirt bike, and if I hit that corner a tenth of a second better, well, all right, cool. Then that means I'm a tenth of a second closer to being the best in Australia, or the best in the state, or the best in my town, or the best in the world. Like it's the idea of bettering yourself every single day that gets me out of bed. I come over here to America, and it's a lot bigger pond. There's a lot bigger fish to fry over here. I'm definitely nowhere near the caliber of some of these guys, and some people shy away from that, whereas I love the challenge. I want to be there. They're all human. There's no reason why I can't be there. So go after it and get after it. So that's what I love. The ability to chase and improve on yourself every single day is awesome.
Oh, that is so cool. So obviously you said that your parents raced as well, but where did it all start for you? Like how old were you, and what was your junior career like?
Oh, geez. I think it all started from when my dad brought me home from the hospital after I was born. Instead of taking me into the house, and introducing me to the fam, no, he took me down to the shed and sat me on his, I think he had a YZ 252 stroke back in 2000.
Yep.
Hadn't even made it in the house yet, nothing. No, he went and took me in the shed and sat me on the bike. All right, I guess this is what this kid's gonna do, right? But my pop on my dad's side, my dad, they both raced. My mum, she raced, and her older brother as well, he raced. And my mum's side of the family owned Singleton Motorcycles for like 36 years.
Oh wow, yeah.
So it's a heritage thing. I was pretty much bred to race a dirt bike, and it just so happened that I caught the bug too and thought it was great. So that's where it started. 4 or 5 years old, I was on a PW50, and then they took me to a couple local races, and then graduated from there and got on a 65, and we started doing it, state titles and a couple open events like our stadium crosses and stuff that we used to have back in the day, and it just escalated from there.
Did you have a track at home that you could ride as well?
I didn't until I was a little bit older. My dad grew up on property, so we'd always go to Nan and Pops and ride there when I was younger. And then when I was about 7 years old, Mum and Dad brought the property that we still currently live at, built a little track, and over as time's gone on, it's developed into, I got 2 awesome motocross tracks at my disposal and a supercross track in my front yard, which I think every man and boy dreams of to say one day, and it's a cool little compound in the heart of the Hunter Valley, that's for sure.
Oh, for sure. So, how far did your parents take their racing?
Mum just did it for fun. She stopped when she got a little bit older, like into end of high school, college, like university type deal. She would ride for fun after that point. It wasn't super competitive, but Dad done all the nationals and supercrosses all the way through until the early 2000s. He actually come over to America back in 1997 and raced in the LA Coliseum.
Yeah.
Done an AMA Supercross. I don't know how well he did, but he made it over here. He got to experience the AMA life, which is pretty cool. But yeah, he chased it for years and years doing the national stuff.
That's awesome, man. I think after we get off the call, I'm going to have to look up the results from the 97 race at the Coliseum.
Yeah, for sure. He was on a 125 in the 125 class, I'm pretty sure.
All right, we'll move on to your Australian racing. So you said you turned pro about 10 years ago, roughly. So what's your career in Australia been like since then?
I'd say it's been pretty good. I'd always love for it to be better. I think everyone would that doesn't have a number one plate in their bedroom or trophy room. But it's definitely been solid. I've had a couple top 5s in the MX3 class. For the first 3 years I was in MX3 and the SX2 class because we didn't have SX3 when I first started. Made a couple main events in the SX2 class, and then unfortunately got hurt, struggled with injuries to start off with in my early days as a senior. But I jumped straight from a 250 at the age of 19 and went straight to the 450 class. Cheaper, way cheaper. It was getting a bit harsh on the old wallet trying to keep a 250 going at that speed. So, and then from there on, I've managed to go from cracking top 20s at 19 years old to 22. I averaged, I think it was out of the 8 rounds, I'd managed like 5 or 6 top 10 overall results. So I had a killer year. 22 I'd say has definitely been the best year so far. 23 was still solid, a couple top 10 overalls, and on the new bike on the Honda. That was my first year on Honda, and I felt like the field was definitely a lot more stacked than the year before. So I was happy with my riding. We were definitely getting better and better, and I was looking forward to 24 being even better again. Coming back from America, and I had learned a lot, and my training was solid, and my fitness side of things was even better. And unfortunately knocked myself out before round 1, and so I missed round 1 due to a concussion. And then round 2 was okay. I think I was like 12th overall something, or 14th. I'd tied 12th overall, but got 14th on count back.
Yeah.
But I was right there, on that bubble again of top 10, and then come out in Adelaide and got a 9th overall. So we were on that upward trend, definitely feeling better and better. And then, unfortunately got hurt. So it's been up and down, but I'd say I'm pumped with what I've done, but definitely looking to do better this year for sure.
Yeah, well, you've definitely had some solid results. Like I've brought up the 23 results, and I think you got 14th overall in the Pro MX for the season, and 13th overall for Supercross in 23 as well. So definitely like super solid results. So moving into the 24 season, what actually happened with your injury? Like, how did that happen, and what was the recovery process like?
Yeah, I went riding at a local track. We were coming into Malin Pro National there, and it's only 30 minutes from home. It's a nice local one for me. Malin was definitely a home track growing up, and I've burned many laps around there, so I was really looking forward to it. Had a day off, like I was on my off swing from work, so I had a couple extra days up my sleeve to go ride, and then I went down to Briggs Factory it's in Kurrambong, which is probably like 40 minutes south of Malin.
Yes.
And it's a sweet little track, a backyard track, and I'm really good friends with the owner, and just going out there to run through a race day simulation, and I come up out of a corner and hit like a kicker on the outside of a up ramp, and it shot me over the bars, and I landed on my backside on the heel of my boot, and it actually broke my L4 in my back. But the real concern was I'd like pretty much tore myself a new butthole. Yeah, literally, like in every sense of the word. Had made like internal bleeding, pretty much like I think I had 40 stitches in my butt crack, which is gnarly to think about. But there was a lot of, I had emergency surgery. I was in trauma. I was the number one patient in trauma that afternoon, John Hunter Hospital. So they were going to life flight me out of there. Like they were rushing around. I honestly didn't understand how serious the injury was at the time, but the doctor come and see me probably 2 days after my accident. They got me out of bed, got me walking. You know, the broken back wasn't a huge concern. It was a clean break, didn't move, which is good. I didn't compress any vertebrae, didn't compress any disc or anything like that, which is good in terms of your recovery and the long-term effects. But then they sat me down and they sort of go, you know, mate, you're a young bloke, usually in the morning, you know, you get a little bit of morning glory, like, does that happen? Rah, rah. And I was like, oh, yeah, like, I don't know why you're asking me all this. And he was like, oh, well, where you've damaged is all your nerves and stuff like that. Listen, this is what we're watching for. They almost gave me a colostomy bag. They said I could have ended up with erectile dysfunction. They were like, we were super worried about your broken back. You could have almost been paralyzed. They were like, and then they're like, but you're lucky. None of that has happened. But now we're worried about the internal bleeding and we're worried about infection. Yeah. You know, you have to stay here for the next 11 days. We need to make sure that everything works. We're not 100% sure that everything with your bowels and all that's going to heal properly. So, and if that doesn't, we're going to have to give you a colostomy bag and you're going to come back in 3 months and we're going to reestablish whether you're going to keep it, whether it's something we have to, you know, we can heal. So I was like, man, for the 11 days, I was sitting here going, my whole life has just changed. Like, what am I going to do? You know, I might have a bag on my belly for the next 12 months, maybe a year, like maybe
ongoing.
The rest of my life. Oh, dude, like they gave me a whole rundown of everything that could have just happened, and I was super thankful that I had great surgeons, and you know I was able to make a full recovery. I walked out of there in 11 days, and I didn't have any of the gnarly side effects that they said could be a possibility. You know, the worst thing was that my like the top all the skin around my lower back, the top of my butt cheeks is completely numb now. I got no feeling in it anymore. Destroyed all the nerves. Like they're all gone. They'll never recover. Yeah. So that's weird. That's very weird. But it was a super gnarly injury. And for a hot minute there, I was like, I'm done. I'm never racing again. Don't ever. I told mum and dad after I come out of surgery, and they had, you know, ran me through all that, and I said to them, I'm done. Sell my bikes and never racing again. Yeah. I'm not touching it. And that lasted for probably 3 days. Then all of my mates come over and see me in hospital, and talking to me about riding and showing me photos of the track, or talking about Supercross and stuff like that. I was like, oh no, I'm back. I'm back. I'm not leaving. I'm fine. Like I'm gonna make a full recovery. I'm back.
Yep.
So I had that little panic. Had to get it out of the way. But the worst part was I had planned to come back here to America and race Redbud, Southwick, and Millville. Come and do 3 rounds of outdoor nationals and live with Henry Miller, who I'm living with now, and my bike and everything was still here. Everything was ready to go, and when I crashed, it was exactly a month out from when I was supposed to leave. So I had to call about 5 days later. I had to call him up and be like, "Hey, yeah, this isn't happening. I'm injured. I'm no good. So just gonna have to hang tight." And I was like, "That's the most depressing call I've ever had to make,"
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to ask. Like, it's pretty clear that you're all into the sport, and it's something you're probably obsessed is probably the right word to use in this scenario. Like, what was that like mentally? Did that create doubts in your own mind that you'd sort of ever get back to where you were sort of at the beginning of that injury when you got all this news? And like, was it hard to get past that?
In all honesty, yeah, it definitely was. That injury definitely it's hard to put into words exactly the way I was feeling at the time. When you're in that situation, everything hurts. People are like, doctors love to give you the worst case scenario
and tell you should never do this again.
They want to prepare you, and honestly, they're probably looking out for your best interest. But at the same time, I'm not going to wrap myself in bubble wrap and never take a risk again. What's the point in living if you're never going to take a risk? So, but probably for the first 6 or so weeks after hospital and that, it definitely weighed on my mind. I didn't go down to the shed and look at my bike for a good, I'd say 2 months. I didn't look at a dirt bike.
Yeah.
I didn't go down, didn't go suss it out, nothing.
You didn't watch racing on TV or anything like that?
No, wouldn't. I would check the results of AMA Supercross or AMA Motocross because one of my best mates, Henry, is still racing, so I'm making sure he's okay, and I would check the results on paper for Australian Motocross just to see how all my mates are doing.
Yeah.
In that as well, but I wouldn't watch nothing. I wouldn't look at anything. I pretty much took a whole step back and reset. Then when the doctor was like, "Okay, if you want, you can ride again," I was like, "All right." Walked down to the shed, pulled everything out, checked over everything, and just I had to step away for a minute in order to get my mind right because for a while there, man, it was stuck in my head. I remember everything about the crash. I remember exactly what happened. I remember what I did wrong.
Yeah.
I remember the pain. There was not one point that I lost consciousness, and that was probably the hardest part about it is, to forget all that. But time goes on, and you forget about the pain slowly but surely, and you forget about the time in hospital becomes shorter and shorter as time goes on. So
yeah,
I'm at the point now where it's like, oh, it doesn't worry me. It's just an injury. It's all good.
We're back, baby.
I'm normal. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's nothing. It's fine. I got a little bit of back pain, but I'm sure I had that before now, before the injury, to be honest. But,
yes, yeah.
But yeah, no, it was a humbling one.
Yeah,
but we're good. It taught me stuff, and it made me more thankful than ever. The first ride back made me more thankful than ever that I get to ride a dirt bike. That's for sure. I think I rolled around home one lap. I was like, oh, I feel okay. I rolled around the second lap because my ass is all numb now. So it felt a little different to start off with. I can tell you what, I couldn't really feel the seat as like I usually do. But third lap, I got some pretty big doubles at home. Hit them, no dramas. Like, yep, we're back, baby.
Yeah.
Just started clicking off laps like I rode the day before. I was like, oh no, this is easy, no worries. And then I think I rode outdoors for probably 3 weeks, and then prepped up the Supercross track and put Supercross suspension back in to the disapproval of my mum and my grandmother. I'm back.
Yep.
I'm racing Supercross. I don't care. And that was honestly that was the full plan. I'd rode and I felt okay. I was like, all right, I'm back. I'm racing Australian Supercross. Like, let's do it.
Yep.
But I was a little bit in over my head, you know, that the fitness had not been there. Like, I wasn't allowed to do anything. Usually, you know, you break a wrist, you break an ankle. I'm in the gym 4 days later doing upper body or lower body or in the pool or something.
Yes.
But because I was all stitched up, I'd absolutely tore the shit out of my lower intestines and all the nerves and all that in my
crazy.
Lower half of my body. I wasn't allowed to engage my core for 2 months.
Yeah.
They're like, nope, don't do it because you'll rip apart all the stitches inside. You'll rip apart anything that's healing. Like, no, nothing.
Infection is such a big risk when you've got injuries like in that area as well.
By the 3 week mark, I was completely safe with that.
Yep.
Everything healed enough in terms of, you know, getting germs or anything in that sort of that way of infection. I was on antibiotics and all that to combat all of that sort of stuff as well. But after that, it was just like the risk of tearing something back open if I was, you know, to try and sit there and engage the core and like hold a plank or something like that. Plus, my L3 was still broken, so you really can't do that with a broken back too.
Yep.
So, but yeah, I couldn't get in the pool. I couldn't do that for, I couldn't get back into a pool for 4 months. Yeah, 4 months it was. Yeah, because I still had a little drain hole because the wound was so deep they couldn't fully stitch me up.
Yep, has
they
to
had
heal
to
from
leave
the
a weep
inside.
hole and the weep hole had to, you know, heal from the inside out. So that was my first reaction to any really broken bone. Dude, I get in the pool. No impact, no risk, nothing, you're fine, you know. But I couldn't do that. So I had to work all of that back and work really close with my trainer, Kurt Shields, who's an awesome bloke, and, you know, build from there. So Supercross, the Australian Supercross was a little bit of a gun-ho move trying to come back for that. And I learned that very quickly after doing about 5 laps of Supercross and I couldn't breathe no more. I was like, I don't think I should race yet. I think I'm a little weak.
Yeah.
So it took a couple months, but everything came back and it was a good rebuild for sure.
At least you've got the presence of mind to realise, you know, that you weren't quite up to it that soon. And we've sort of glossed over it, but with your broken back, did you end up having to have surgery or did you have to get anything fused or pins or rods or anything like that, or it just healed by itself?
No, I was very lucky. The break was stable. Like it was a complete break, but it was stable. Didn't need any rods, nothing like that, which was lucky. I just had to be obviously super careful.
Yes, for sure.
But I didn't compress nothing or anything like that, so which is awesome. The only part of surgery was obviously for all the internal damage.
Yep. So you obviously ended up missing the Aussie Supercross then. So and then, you know, made more plans to go to the US. So how did that sort of come about? Have you been to the US before, or was it always your plan to end up over racing AMA?
Well, yeah, like I touched on loosely before, I'd come over at the end of the 23 season. I flew over on Christmas Day, actually, and I had spent 6 weeks here and dipped my toe in the water a little bit. I'd tried to race one AMA Supercross, and that was A2, which is probably honestly the worst one that I could have entered because that track was absolutely beat. And I was in 450 C practice, which was horrible, worst idea. But no, I've been really good friends with Henry Miller for a very long time, and he's honestly, you know, in top 10 in 250 East right now, and dude's an absolute freak on the dirt bike, and we've been pretty good friends ever since he came and raced in Australia back in 2019 for Raceline KTM. And so yeah, I was lucky enough that Henry, we'd caught up in Melbourne at the World Supercross, and he was like, I said to him, I'm trying to come over to America. I want to come and check it out. You know, I want to come ride the tracks and learn some stuff. And he's like, oh, well, hey, if you want to come over, I got a spare bed in my house in Texas. Like, you're more welcome to the Supercross tracks nearby. Like, you can just ride with me if you want. And I was like, perfect.
Yeah.
Booked a flight, boom, straight over. And, you know, I spent 6 weeks here. It worked really well. And obviously I had the plan to come back for Outdoor Nationals in EP44 just to, try my hand at that, see where I stack up against the best in the world. Obviously that didn't happen. And I'd called Henry probably, it was like 3 days after I'd started riding again, just to talk shit, catch up, see what had been going on. And talking away, and he just goes to me, so when are you getting back on Supercross? I was like, oh, don't know yet, like I was umming and ahhing about it. And he goes, well, your bike's still here, like it's your bike, you bought it, like you're going to come back over and race some more? And I was like, yeah, that sounds like a pretty good idea. Okay. Yeah, right. So that, that's what got the cogs turned. And I was like, oh, Australian Supercross it's a month away. I'm sure I could get myself in a decent enough shape to go race that,
Yeah.
Obviously I'd made the smart decision in putting that aside. And when I'd made that decision, it was like, okay, all right, I'm going to focus on, we're going to keep riding Supercross, but we're going to go to America and try for a longer stint,
yep,
obviously, and try my hand at a few more races, because last time I was over here, 6 weeks just isn't enough. The tracks over here are absolutely not to like say that Australian Supercross isn't good or anything like that, but the tracks over here are just, they're steeper, they've got more dirt in, like the 3-footers, 5-footers just seem more volume to them.
Yes, yep.
Whereas Australia, in comparison, Australia is like a little more laid out. I feel like you don't get the same pop through rhythm. So suspension setup over here is a lot different. Like everyone runs their stuff a lot stiffer, which is crazy. And the way they build whoops here is just like insane. It's completely different, so it takes you a while to get used to that change. And obviously the weather and different people, different caliber of riders, and the ruts, like their tracks over here are super soft. So trying to learn jumping rhythms and landing in a rut to then jump into another rut is a whole new skill, because, we're riding Australian Supercross in the middle of summer and tracks are just absolutely blue groove baked, hard. It's not really an issue. So I was like, all right, well, I'm going to come over for a longer period of time. Gonna do more races and go from there.
Yep.
And as we kept talking and I kept riding, and I'd talk about different things with Henry, like trying different things and working really closely with Chris Wood's performance and in suspension, because I knew exactly what I was gonna expect over here in the US. Now I'd dipped my hand in it already, so I had a bit more of an idea, wasn't going in completely blind. So yeah, we just working really closely, getting better and better, building, and as we got closer, AJ, who manages the Buddy Brooks Storm Lake Honda team, who's also a good friend of mine and Henry's, he hits me up and goes, well, how are you going to get your bike to the races? How are you going to travel? All that sort of stuff. And I was like, honestly thinking, oh, dude, I'll just hire a car and drive to the race. I don't care. Like, I'd love to see more of America. It's a holiday for me at that point. Like, I'm sightseeing as well as racing my dirt bike. Like, life's awesome.
Yeah.
And AJ's like, no, I'm gonna put you on the team, give you a little bit of help, and just make life a little easier for you. I was like, oh, well, that's pretty. I wasn't expecting that, man. Like, I really, really appreciate it. That'd be really cool. And as it got closer and closer, it just kept snowballing and getting bigger and bigger. And all of a sudden I pull up at Tampa, and here's an awesome, CRF 450 underneath this awesome truck rig at Tampa Bay Stadium, and Rutted Gear has supplied me with some brand new gear and 6D helmets, and I'm in EKS goggles, and I got a fully kitted out bike, and I just flew to the race, and I'm looking down the pits, and Roxon's like 3-4 meters down the pits next to me, and I look down there, and PC Cowie's in front of me, and I'm like, no way, how did I just? I'm at an AMA Supercross underneath a rig with a great group of people behind me. I got, one of my best mates is my teammate. I'm meeting all these awesome people. I'm in the best country in the world. Like, what just happened? Like just honestly, just from talking, it wasn't like they hit me up going, hey, you're super fast, like I want you to ride for us. No, it was more like, hey, you're going to come over here, like we want to help you out. We'll transport your bike to the races. And I was thinking in my head before I'd come over here, oh yeah, I'll just pull my bike out of the truck and go pit down here in a 3x3 quick shade up, put me under the truck, and man, maybe like feel at home. They couldn't have done enough for me. It snowballed just from one conversation to all of a sudden this full team deal. But man, I couldn't be honestly more appreciative and thankful for everything they've done for me. That's for sure.
Yeah, for a kid from rural Australia, that's almost got a feel factory, doesn't it?
Oh man, it's factory to me, man. Like that's for sure. It's everything I ever dreamed of. Like I'm an American AMA Supercross under a rig. Like dude.
No, that is so awesome. Cool. That's so cool. So when we see Aussie guys go over and dip their toes in at the AMA, most of them will usually start off racing like the 250. How come you went straight to the 450? Was it sort of just a carry on from why you race it over in Australia, and that's what you're used to, and you've been racing it for so long?
Yeah, definitely. I'm comfortable with 450. Like I haven't rode a 250 since 2018. So in order for me to go back to a 250, that'd be a pretty big readjustment. Not that I couldn't do it. If someone wants to give me a ride, and I'll ride 250, no worries. But I was riding. I own a Sierra 450 here in America. I'm still riding Sierra 450s back home. It's a Honda team here in America that I'm riding for. Made sense just for me to stay on 450. Not as big a change. I'm already dealing with a lot of change over here in terms of the tracks and the competition and the weather and stuff like that. So try and make it as smooth transition as possible. You know what I mean? So that was my frame of mind, as well as I'm going to come back home and want to race Australian Supercross in the 450 class. So yeah, that was sort of my thought process with it.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you kind of gel with the lifestyle and the culture over there. You said it's the best country in the world. Is there anything that you've found challenging to get used to over in the States?
Other than transferring Australian dollars into American dollars, that's about the only thing that's hard for me, because at the moment the Aussie dollar is worth about 50 cents of the American dollar. So
you get poorer at the exchange.
Everything I buy, every time I $2,000 Australian comes out of my bank account, it's only $1,000 American. It's like, damn, that's rough.
That's gotta suck.
Honestly, mate. It makes it. I'm sort of at an advantage. I'm living with Americans in a city that they know really well. So they show me all the local spots. They introduce me to people, like contacts like physios or trainers or people to ride with, tracks to ride, private tracks to ride. Anyone, like if I need food or like just good places to go. I don't have to try a bunch of different stuff and work out it all on my own, which is awesome. But for the most part, America is very similar to Australia. Everyone speaks English, and that's not like I'm going to Europe or something like that, where it's a completely different culture in terms of that type of thing. But yeah, I honestly love it here. It's been a super smooth transition for me being here, and I honestly have every intention of moving here full time as soon as my trade's done. That's for sure.
No, that's very cool. So before you started racing the Supercross, you dipped your toes in and raced a bit of Arenacross first, didn't you? What was that like?
Oh man, that was gnarly. That was wild. Henry Miller was actually leading the GT Arenacross championship at the time, and I had landed just after Christmas, and he pretty much says to me, "Hey, we'll ride a couple days here in Texas, and then we're going to go race straight off the bat." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So Clint Stapes from Stapes Suspension, he does all of my suspension while I'm here in the US, because trying to, time difference or sending suspension back and forth to Australia for Woodsy to reval or something if I need to change, or trying to talk to him about adjustments and stuff, it makes it very hard with time difference and things like that. So I was able to work with Stapes over here in America, and that made my life a lot easier. I had someone to call and someone here at the track that could watch and make adjustments for me on the fly. So started working with him, which was another big adjustment. I've worked with Chris and Derek for years and years and years. So it was a little bit daunting to work with someone else, but he's been great. And I had a couple of days on that suspension, felt good on the bike, and it was like, all right, let's load up, let's go to Arenacross. And honestly, I have never ridden a damn track that tight in such a small arena. Like, it made Adelaide Supercross feel pretty big, not going to lie. Yeah. I was like, damn, it's like the lanes are very skinny. Is this what they're all like? And Henry's like, the first one I did was in Lincoln, Nebraska, and Henry goes, no, this is actually a big track for an Arenacross. I was like, what? It's got like 3 lanes.
Yeah.
And it's tiny. It's in a little horse like arena. Are you serious? He's like, yeah, this is a big arena. I was like, okay. And I found out really quick why Vince Freeze is very good at Arenacross.
Yeah.
Damn, I got absolutely slammed in the second corner on the heat race of the first night. Far out. I was like, wow, okay, this is different.
Yeah.
But I got my bearings. We ended up doing, so we raced in Lincoln, Nebraska, Memphis, Springfield. Yeah. So I done those 3.
Yep.
Those 3 rounds. Oh, those 3 places. There's 2 rounds. So we race on a Friday and Saturday night. Each night is a round of the championship. You do free practice and then a time qualifying session, and then a heat, top 5 transfer straight out of the heat. The rest go LCQ, top 4 out of the LCQ transfer, and there's 14 in an A main. There's two mains each night, and I was able to make every single A main, and for the most part I transferred straight out of the heat. I had one really bad heat race in Memphis, Tennessee, and I had to go to LCQ, which I was a little bit panicky. I was like, I've never not made an AMA and I want to start now. But I whole shotted that bugger and got out of there nice and clean and won the LCQ, which is cool, and ended up finishing 5th overall that night. And then the following night I ended up getting 2nd overall, so that was an awesome round for me. Like, I was pumped. Yeah, get a podium over here. I was like, oh, this is great.
Yep.
The last round didn't quite go my way. There was a quad into a corner. I come up short on the quad in qualifying and went over the bars and actually hit the signage post for the start gate, above the start gate. I got yard sailed into the signage post, and I tried to race, and it just wasn't happening. My back was all jacked up and bruised and sore and whatnot. So I didn't race that night, I was super bummed about. It was my last Arenacross while I was here, and I was super bummed to finish it like that. But man, I learned so much, protecting your insides and being really aggressive on the first couple laps, because it's so hard to make it pass on those tight little tracks. So I learned heaps in terms of racecraft and intensity. So I was pumped to do that, and it made me feel a lot more comfortable over here in terms of racing guys like that. And everyone was pretty welcoming. They were pretty stoked to hear an Aussie accent, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I got into it a couple of times, got shoved off the track, and I shoved a few people back, and I was like, all right, cool.
Yep.
This is what it's all about, Arenacross, I thought it was awesome.
Now, from an intensity point of view, it's probably a really good experience to have had that under your belt before you went and raced Supercross. Yeah,
for sure. Well, I'd sort of forgotten all about it, but we pulled up to Lincoln, and I pull Henry aside and I go, hey, this is my first gate drop since May last year. He's like, oh, well, you'll be right. You'll be fine. And I was like, yeah, all right, let's see if I remember how to do this. Let's see if I remember my, first couple laps, intensity. There's no way I can just ease it in. I got to be in that top 5. I want to transfer straight out of the damn heat. I don't want to go to no LCQ.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was definitely a learning experience for sure, but it felt great. And honestly, the intensity that you learn from such tight, close racing like that. Like it's different to racing like an outdoor or a traditional Supercross, because you can flow the corners a lot better on a Supercross or an outdoor national. You have a lot more room, a lot more line selection.
Yes.
Whereas when everyone's jammed so close and tight together,
narrow.
and you know, if you have a 2-second lead in an arena cross, damn dude, you're killing it.
Yep.
Because you're talking about a 20-second lap time.
Yeah.
Like if you're half a second quicker than someone, like you're pulling leaps and bounds. So everyone's within a tenth or two of each other's lap time. So you really don't get a break. So it's just like non-stop intensity until you're done. Even though the race only lasts for 3 minutes, you come off and you're gassed.
Yeah. So going from that, like into the Supercross, like what was that transition like? And I think you've done 2 Supercrosses now, and you've made the night show at both of them, even though Detroit was a daytime program.
Yeah.
What was that transition like? And did you train differently between the arena cross to get ready for Supercross, or it was just basically flowing from one straight into the next?
No, like we were riding Supercross tracks the whole entire time for the arena cross series. The arena, like if you're training a Supercross track, you go to the arena cross track and go, oh, this is nothing. Everything's super laid out. Like it's not challenging for you. So it makes the arena crosses definitely a lot easier.
Yeah.
You know, the whoops are only 2 foot tall as opposed to a 3 or 4 foot tall whoop that's looks like it's just straight up and down and no face to it at all. So the preparation and stuff like that definitely didn't change at all. But the nerves were definitely a lot different pulling up to Tampa than they were for pulling up to an arena cross, that's for sure.
Yeah. So how does it compare to like your experience of racing Supercross in Australia? I mean, some of our Supercrosses over here are obviously a little bit smaller, but I guess we had some pretty big ones in 23 that you did race, like Newcastle and Melbourne. How does it sort of compare to those bigger Supercross events that we've got over here?
Like it's honestly, I'd say it's pretty similar in terms of, you know, big stadium, bigger track, things like that. Newcastle and Melbourne especially, like they were super cool events in 23 and big layouts. You know, you had some pretty big combinations that you could do, and very similar to the AMA Supercrosses. But the thing that I like most about over here is we get a 10-minute free practice, and then you get 2, I think it's 8 minutes, or it's either 2 8-minute or 2 10-minute qualifying sessions.
Yeah.
Whereas when I raced Oz Supercross, it was 8 minutes free practice and then an 8-minute qualifying session. That's it.
Yep.
Yeah. And in free practice, you got to do the whole first lap on the yellow.
Yes.
No, not the case here in America. You know, regardless if you did press or not, you can go out there first lap and hit everything straight off the bat if you want to. Like, you know, you're a grown adult, you can make your own decisions, and then if you make a bad one and try and jump something stupid on the first lap and crash, well, that's your own damn fault, you know. And I feel like that's a way better rule in terms of you've only got 8 minutes. You got to work out a whole track.
Yep. Like,
I don't want to run out of time and try and figure something out in the heat race. You know what I'm saying? So I think the little bit of extra time on the track is a lot more comforting to try and get comfortable and up to a race pace for sure.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges we've got over here is that we have a lot more classes that they need to fit into the schedule, which definitely robs the premier classes in SX2 and SX1 of some track time. So,
yeah,
you know, I think the format over here could definitely be looked at, because I know, especially this last year, like we had some, apart from Adelaide, they were all sort of full-size Supercross tracks, but that was one of the criticisms of the format that we had was just track time over here. So, yeah, that's, I think, something we could definitely look at to improve Australian Supercross. In terms of racing, Tampa and Detroit that you've done so far, what was the whole vibe like? Like, I mean, you know, in the heats you're racing against and lining up next to guys like Eli Tomac and Ken Roxon. Like, what was that like for, a guy from Australia that's used to racing over here and you know, on the biggest stage in the world?
Dude, it's it is honestly, a dream come true, to be honest. You sit there, and especially being in Australia, you're 10,000 miles away from America. It seems like such a distant goal to get over here and race. And I was pretty nervous leading into Tampa. I was like, I at least want to qualify for the damn night show. Like, I don't want to fly all that way and waste everyone's damn time and money and not at least make it into the show. Like, come on. So I was a little nervous, but we got it done. We put it into the night show, and I rode okay. But I'm sitting there, and I think I was in heat 1, and I'm sitting there. There's a little TV that everyone watches in the chutes of like the heat races before us. Like the 250 heat 2 was on the television while we're sitting in the chute waiting to be called up to the line, and watching the TV. And next second, Ken Roxon walks up right beside me, and right next that's on my left shoulder, and on my right shoulder is Eli Tomac, and then right behind me was Hunter Lawrence. And I've raced Hunter for years back home, but the dude's an absolute freak, and he's on the world stage, and I'm like, wow,
you're there.
I'd really fangirl right now and be like, Tomac, can you please like sign my jersey? Like, but I got to race you, and you're actually in my competition. I'm supposed to hate you right now. Like, damn, this is a different mindset that I got to have right now. So it was a huge adjustment. But when you walk out onto the gate, and I'm looking at everything that I've watched for years and years and just dreamt about, and I'm like, I'm about to drop a gate on my very first Supercross, AMA Supercross. Like, how unreal is this? This is awesome. And my mechanic Nemo's just like, hey, just soak it in, go get laps, don't do anything stupid. Like,
enjoy it.
Go out there and learn as much as you possibly can. Because every time I'm on the track with these guys, like, these guys are insanely fast. Like, just to qualify for the damn night show was hard.
Yeah.
Because these dudes are ripping. These guys are not slow by any means. So it's like, all right, well, I got 39 other guys that I can learn a lot from. So let's go out there and try and beat some of them and see how far I can climb up, And Tampa, honestly, I rode horrible. I was nervous and just rode timid, rode super conservative, especially like the week before I had a massive crash at the Arenacross, and I was hurting bad. My back, I went to physio like 3 times leading into it. So I wasn't 100%.
Yeah.
But it was an awesome experience, and I would never take it back. It was just unreal. But then Detroit come around like this past weekend, and all right, it's starting to feel a little more routine, and I know exactly, where to go to sign on, who to speak to, go to tech inspection or anything like that. Like, I know the process is a lot better now. So going out there and qualifying and everything I had a bit more of a game plan. I was used to it. Unfortunately, I had a massive wreck on race day live. I got plenty of TV time on the big jumbo screen. I wheel spun off that weird little tabletop on-off thing that on the left 90, and ate it hard and got plenty of TV time for it, which is, I guess any TV time is good time, but I definitely didn't want it to be that. But I was fine, got one stitch in my top lip and shook that off and qualified better than what I did at Tampa, and was riding a lot better. And all right, cool, let's get after it. Like, let's ride how I know how to ride.
Yeah.
Better than what I did at Tampa, and I did. I rode better in my heat, and LCQ, I'm further up. I got a better start, put myself up near. I'm trying to think of his name.
I think you were 13th coming around the first couple of corners. So
yeah. Like, I was definitely closer. I had Justin Rodbell not far in front of me.
Yep.
Couple of dudes that have, like, Moran's was not far in front of me in the first couple of corners. I'm like, all right, cool, we're in the mix. We're better start. We're gonna carry some momentum. And, yep, finished 15th, which, dude, I don't want to be at the back of the pack. I hate it. I really do. I want to be in the damn main event for sure. But you got to walk before you can run, and that was an improvement on Tampa. And this weekend in Arlington, we're gonna do the same again. We're gonna figure out the track quicker. We're gonna get in the mix a bit more, and I know exactly where I stack up. So hey, I want to try and beat the next 3 dudes that are in front of me this weekend. Let's see if we can do it.
Yeah, and one thing that I took a lot away from too, like watching your progress, there was 3 guys behind you in the LCQ that have all made main events. So, and you beat them straight up. So the potential is definitely there.
Yeah, it's crazy like how stacked both classes are, honestly. Like, very rarely in Australia do you have that issue of, oh, dude, will I make the top 40 and make it in the night show? It's like, oh, damn, you'd be lucky if you had to qualify for the main event sometimes in the 450 class. So, that's not really our issue back home. So to come here and it's like, no, man, you gotta really work your ass off just to get in that top 40, because all these dudes have made main events or they've, top 20 AMA nationals. Like, you're not talking about slouches here, man. Like, they all know how to ride and ride really well. So
yeah,
that's been a massive difference, the depth in the field,
So do you have a set goal, like where you see yourself, like a ceiling, or you just want to progress a little bit each time you race and then just see how far you can take it?
This year I didn't. The goal was just to make every night show.
Yep.
That's my goal at the moment. But now that I've made 2, it's like, all right,
let's make a main.
How close to how close to that top 4 in the LCQ can I get? Or dude, can I hang in that top 9 position? Like, let's see. But that next step is definitely, it's a big step.
Yeah.
Those guys are going really, really fast, and I'm just trying to learn and soak it all in as much as I possibly can. Like, you sort of underestimate how often these guys ride Supercross. I went from riding 2, maybe 3 times a week back home to I ride on average 4 to 5 times a week on Supercross.
Yeah.
And these guys do that from the months of like September till May.
Yeah. And a lot of them have been doing it for years as well.
Yeah. And like you times that by 10, 15 years, it's like, yeah, no wonder these guys come over to Australia and just absolutely wax us, because they've been doing a lot longer,
Yeah.
and consistency and repetition, always is going to make you way better. So I'd say for this trip, for this year, it's just learn as much as I possibly can, make every night show, and just try and climb that ladder as far as I can. If I pull a damn hole shot in the heat, I'm sending it. I'm going to hold on to that damn top 9 for as long as I bloody can. Or if I hole shot the damn LCQ, I'm holding on to that transfer spot for as long as I can. I'm definitely not going to roll over. I don't care who it is,
Oh man, but, I'll be on the edge of my seat when that happens for sure.
Oh, dude. I mean, I gotta start qualifying a little better so I get a bit better of a gate pick, because being on the outside and on these starts, you got Buckleys and none of trying to whole shot the factory dudes on the inside of you, that's for sure.
Yeah. So I've got to ask, like, you've got a bit of support now with a satellite team, and it's not something that we really talk about in Australia too much. But from a money perspective, do you think you can make it enough from racing as a privateer to fund living and racing in the USA? Do you think there's the potential there, sort of at the level you're at, making night shows, and obviously, with the goal of getting higher up the points moving forward, but like at this level that you're racing at the moment, is that something you can do?
I mean, definitely. Like, privateers over here, they can make good money. Like they definitely make enough to pay their weekends. That's for sure. The privateer, in terms of contingency and purse money over here, like to race an AMA Supercross, will pay for your weekend.
Yep.
You at least get something back. You at least make more than your damn entry fee back. Which, Australian motocross. I mean, Australian Supercross, if you're top, I think it's like top 8 or 9 in the main event, you start to make your entry fee back. But damn, I got 9th overall at Adelaide last year, and I made $100.
Yeah.
It cost me $300 and something to enter the damn thing.
Yep.
I'm like, what am I doing? It just cost that whole weekend, driving from Singleton all the way to Adelaide, 16 hours one way. I got to drive all the way back. Yeah. It doesn't even come close to paying for the fuel just to get there, let alone my accommodation, my time off work, the damn chain sprockets I just put on my bike, or the brake pads, the damn fuel in my bike that I just had to put in there. Like,
yeah,
dude, Australian the Australian side of things definitely needs to come to the party in terms of prize money, purse. Like, we are the show, and we're paying to be there.
I think last year it was a lot better than even the previous year, but it's still got a long way to go.
Oh, for sure. Like, you should, the top 20 at least in, each class should be making the entry fee back.
Oh,
at least.
Yeah.
Like, dude, sure. I'm getting real sick and tired of spending a week's wage just to enter the damn race.
Yep.
You know, like, busting my balls out here and ain't really getting much back. But over here, man, like, there's definitely heaps of opportunity. You can at least make enough to pay for your weekend, you know,
to make it worthwhile
your flight,
pursuing.
Yep. Right? Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I don't really care if I make enough to not live on, but, like, you know, I'm not expecting to make $1 million and have a Ferrari sitting in my driveway. You know, I'm still going to go and have my pliers in my back pocket and install a couple downlights during the week. That's fine to me. I don't mind. I just want, you know, if I'm going to go through all this effort and put on a show, well, damn, where's my cut? Yep. If I'm going to make the top 40 or the top 20, like, come on now, you know. You got to give back to the people that are putting on the show, because it's not their life that's on the line, it's ours.
No, 100%. So I think you already said you're going to race Arlington on the coming weekend, but what's the plan moving forward? How long are you going to be over there for, and how many more races are you going to do?
Yeah, so Arlington this weekend, I sort of classify Arlington as my home race. You know, I've based myself here in Fort Worth for the last 2 years, so it's only 30 minutes down the road. So I'll race Arlington this weekend and race Daytona, which I'm really looking forward to next weekend. And then Indianapolis will be my final one for this trip. Unfortunately, I gotta go home after that one. Work won't let me have any more time off. My annual leave ran out about 2 weeks ago, and they were good about it. You know, they were good enough to give me an extra month or a month and a bit of leave without pay, and then they were like, "Hey, you can't miss any more time of work. You need to finish your trade. I've got to sit my capstone in June, so get back, study for that, and obviously get back for round one of the Oz Pro Nationals as well." So that's like the 22nd, and I land on the 13th. So I'll have just over a week to get a little bit of testing in with Chris Wood's performance and get my Honda dialed in and ready to go racing there. So we'll be ready for that one.
Yeah, straight into the deep end.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, motocross I've raced for many, many years, so I'm sure I haven't forgot how to ride motocross. So we'll be right. We'll be ready to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, unfortunately, only a few more weeks left until I have to come back. So I'm looking forward to seeing everyone, but at the same time, I definitely don't want to leave.
Yeah, I can imagine, man. I can imagine once you've got that bug and you're over there doing it, you just want to keep going. Yeah,
you do. And I mean, racing every weekend is awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome. You know, you just get in that flow and the rhythm, and it's definitely a different vibe. You know, it's not like Australia where you race one weekend and okay, I'll see you guys in a month's time and we'll go racing again. No, every weekend, just back to back. It's a different way, you know.
Yeah, I think that's sort of one of the things that we've spoken about a fair bit on the podcast, and just even around the pits lately is with the schedule over here. That because at the quote pro level, these guys are still racing, you know, the sunny states or the state titles, and our pro scene has to mesh in with all the local racing and regional racing, whereas over there, like, their pro scene is just independent, and it takes priority over everything else. So when you're a pro and you're racing pretty much only pro level races. So is that something sort of you think in Australia would make our scene over here better and more viable? Obviously the money side is a big factor, but if we had more racing closer together?
Oh, 1,000%. 1,000%. It makes sense for everyone, right? The teams don't have to supply as much parts to their riders because the preseason doesn't last as long, as well as the season itself won't last nowhere near as long.
Yeah.
Like you you think you're pretty much getting a full reset after some of these nationals with the long breaks in between, like chains, sprockets, brake pads, like all this stuff that wears out, and you're giving us 3-4 weeks at a time before each national. Like, we're just tearing through parts budgets, and both on the team levels and privateer levels. You know, to me, it makes sense to. I would love to see. I would love to see outdoors go from. I'd say you either run it. I'm just trying to think, like, in terms of trying to match it up with the AMA schedule. Like, there's a lot of guys. I'm not the only one that, you know, travels overseas to dip into the AMA circuit. The way that the Australian Supercross series works at the time of the year is great, because you do have a lot of international guys that come over and race that series, which is awesome for everyone. But yeah, I'd say 8 rounds of Oz Pro MX should be done, and all said and done, within 9 weeks of racing. You know, that's how they run it over here. It works well, and for me as a privateer, I would love it, because I could have a 3-month pre-season, you know, through the months of January, February, March, race April, May, be done by the middle of June, and then I could work from July, August, September, go race Supercross for 5-6 weeks straight, and then, you know, have another little break if that's how they wanted to run it, or anything like that, you know.
No, for sure. There's a lot of pros and cons, but I totally agree. I think having the season sort of bunched up has more positives about it, but it definitely makes it harder over here for some of the races. Like we already said, there's a lot of mixed classes over here, so because we incorporate some of the junior classes like MX3 and 85 and even 65 into our Pro MX and the Supercross, like you've got parents' work schedules to factor in, and it's just an added complexity over here that you guys don't have to deal with racing in the US. But it'd be awesome if we could go down that road.
This is where I don't get. We've only just recently started incorporating junior racing into the pro level. Like, we never did it back when I was in juniors.
Yes. Yeah.
So why are we doing it now? Like, I honestly don't get it, and it doesn't make sense. Okay. The tracks are nowhere near as gnarly prepped. We're not putting as big jumps in tracks anymore, because, you know, you got to cater for everyone. Well, it's like, no, I'm come over here to ride the AMA stuff, and I've rode a couple of outdoors a couple of days that I've been here, and I'm riding on a Tuesday, middle of the week, on just a regular training day, and there's probably 12 ruts in every single corner and 15 ruts on up ramps of uphill triples that I'm having to hit in 4th gear on a 450.
Yeah.
And our nationals don't look nowhere near as gnarly as what their Tuesday practice days do, when old mates on a 60, like little Timmy's on a 65 killing it. But then we go back home and we don't get nowhere near as gnarly conditions, and wonder why all of our exports struggle, you know, when it comes to racing in different countries. I honestly feel the MX3 class is great. I like it. Honestly, I wish we had, you know, that 14 to 17-year-old group when I was growing up, because I would have loved to have been on the national track and national type of conditions, because it does form out when you have faster guys. The lines are completely different, where the braking bumps form is completely different. But I feel like if you're going to race the pro level, or like the nationals or the Supercross, well, then that's the schedule you're doing. Whatever club level or state level stuff or anything like that, well, that's their own separate deal. And the people that don't want to go traveling all over the countryside and doing the national stuff, well, they won't go do it. They'll go do their local stuff, and they can run independently of our schedule, you know? Like, I don't see the point in that.
No, and I tend to agree. I've definitely spoken about it with a few riders over the last year, and I think the consensus is amongst a lot of guys that, you know, the 85 and 65 cc's especially shouldn't be at the Pro MX level, and if they are, that it's maybe one feature race, you know, for the 85s. I don't even think the 65s really, like, that's a long way away from racing Pro MX, and there's plenty of years and time to actually get accustomed to racing at higher levels without putting them on a quote Pro MX level track. as a feature. Like it doesn't benefit
honestly,
the event or the industry.
No, I would honestly say it's safer for them not to be there because they've got tiny wheels, tiny suspension, and they're little kids. Like, they're not going to be able to. I'm definitely not discrediting some of the top 65 riders. They're more than capable to ride those conditions, 100%. But is it safe for a group of 40 of them to go out there and race it? Absolutely not. They should, go and race junior nationals, go and race junior state titles.
Exactly, yep.
Develop those skills. And when you're on a bigger bike that can handle those jumps and those bumps and those deep ruts, no worries. Because half the time you're watching the 65 guys and they go onto the inside rut and they get stuck.
Yep.
Because their bikes are physically not big enough to be out there.
Yeah. You so guys are scraping pegs and swallowing their whole wheel.
Yeah. I don't understand. I do understand. It's just a money grab for AMA and the promoters. Pay you $200 to enter, and no worries. They get a couple extra grand on top. That's what it really comes down to. But I think it's wrong.
For the MX3 guys, though, like you said, those guys are able to race on those level tracks. So and they are the future. I think that's like the development class for the sport. So totally agree with you there.
It works in Europe. They've already proved that. They've been doing that for years with their EMX class, and you got guys like Kai Woods and Toby Hansis and all these guys. I come through the under 19s classes, as it was called when I was at that age, and I reckon it's brilliant. These guys are going plenty quick, and it's a no-brainer. But anything under a 250, go do the junior nationals, go do the junior state titles. When you're old enough, come to the big boys.
That's it. So is there anything else that you can think of as far as the Australian scene goes that you've, from your experience racing over there, that you think might make it better over here?
No, honestly, if they change the schedule and put up some decent prize money, some contingency, I'd say you'd be definitely on track to bringing back what the sport used to look like 10, 15 years ago in Australia. Those two main points are probably the biggest points to start off with that I can see. I'm sure there's many things that we could improve on, but for now, you got to give a reason to turn up and make it a little more, I'd say, budget friendly for the privateers and teams in general before you go any further.
No, for sure. Well, it's getting pretty strong over here. I feel like we're still on an upward trajectory. We've got a lot of satellite teams now. There's a lot less privateers that are having to race completely off their own bat. There's more opportunities for support. The factory tents are sort of getting a few more riders under each of their tents, which is awesome to see. So when you come back to Australia, you're obviously going to race the Pro MX. You're going to do Supercross here as well? Yeah,
for sure. Yep. Yeah. I'll. The plan is, once I get home, to race the outdoor series and the Supercross series for the Ride Red Honda Genuine team.
Yep.
Yuri's been awesome, man. I can't say enough good things about him. He really is one of those guys that wants to see the sport grow and gives everyone an awesome opportunity under that program to make the sport as accessible and give us the best support possible, through Honda. And I'm more than appreciative with him. This is going to be my third year on the Honda, so I'm really looking forward to it.
Oh, fantastic. And then back to the US, is that the plan?
Yeah, for sure, mate, for sure. The trade will be done as of the end of June. Yep. I'll be a fully qualified electrician, do the rest of my racing in Australia, finish the Australian Supercross season, and then as soon as that's done, mate, I am coming straight back here and hopefully be back with the same team that I am with now, with great support. And I'd love to do, honestly, the whole 17 rounds if I could, you know. But I in general, stepping away from racing, I love it here. I've got a great group of friends here in Texas, so I have every intention of moving here full time once I'm done with my trade and everything in Australia. Obviously, my family and everything is still in Australia, so I'll come back and forth between racing seasons. But I love it here, so I definitely want to call it home for a bit more of a permanent time rather than a couple months out of the year. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, it'll suck to lose you from the Australian scene, but man, I'll be definitely watching with a pretty high level of excitement to see how you go over there. I really, really appreciate you coming on, and I know it's getting late over there. Before I let you go, is there anyone that you'd like to mention or thank that supports your program or has helped you out?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'd love to just give a massive shout out to the whole, Buddy Brooks, the team owner, for giving me this opportunity. The whole Buddy Brooks Racing, Storm Lake Honda team, without them, this whole thing wouldn't be possible at all. My good friend Henry Miller, for housing me, and his girlfriend Andrea for taking me in. This is their second year having the Aussie housemate, and honestly, man, without them, it wouldn't be possible. My mechanic Nemo, AJ, team manager Dan, everyone on the team that do that, they've been so supportive and kind. Helping me out with everything. It's intimidating coming all the way from Australia. You're a long way from home. Family's all the way back at home, and they've made me really feel comfortable and welcome. It's been awesome. So a massive shout out to all of them, all the guys at Rutted, ProTaper, 16, EKS, all the sponsors for helping me out. It's been great, and obviously a massive shout out to the family back home. It's been hard for them watching, being so far away, especially after the weekend's qualifying mishap, going down and getting the stitch and in the F1 Star Medical rig. It's stressful for them. They hate to be so far away from me if anything goes wrong. So massive shout out to them. And honestly, man, I'm just stoked to be here. It's definitely a dream come true, and I'm going to grab a hold of this opportunity with both hands and just, run it till the wheels fall off, mate. Just keep it going for as long as I can.
That's the way, Dylan. That's the way. Well, good luck with the next few rounds, and I look forward to catching you when you come back to Oz.
Beauty, mate. I appreciate it, and I look forward to catching up with you soon.
And that brings us to the end of our first Inside the Helmet show for 2025. We're planning on doing a bunch of these this year, so if you like this episode, please give us a positive review on your preferred podcast platform, and make sure you subscribe to Mental4Moto and turn on your notifications so you don't miss out on the next one. I'd like to say a massive thanks to Dylan Wood for calling in all the way from Texas. I've always enjoyed catching up with Dylan at the races, so it was awesome to actually finally get to sit down and record a pod with him. Thanks to our partners for bringing you this episode as well. Iro, 5 Gloves, Bolt Everywhere Premium Racewear, Graphics by Aqua, Death Grip Products, Southeast Pools, Wolf Building Compliance, Seaview Carpentry and Maintenance, Kimber Constructions, and the February sponsor of our motocross wall calendars, Ultimate Toy Haulers. And most of all, thanks to you people for listening. On behalf of Mental4Moto, I've been your host, Pete Wolf. Until next time, see ya.